Good afternoon, everyone. And just before I start, a disclaimer. In case of an emergency and humor overload, the emergency exit doors are right over there, so just know that. And I would like to thank everyone for coming out to my capstone, and there are many things that you could have been doing this probably the precious time, but instead you chose to attend this presentation, so for that, thank you. And as Benjamin Franklin said, lost time is... And so by the end of this presentation, I hope that you walk out of this door not wanting the time that you spend here back. And if everything fails, then I guess I could just entertain you with an impression of King Julie. Yes! Now, if everything fails. Now, like everyone in this room, I've spent a lot of time, I've put in a lot of thought and a lot of time into bringing my capstone to fruition. What? You might not think 5 minutes is a lot of time, but trust me, it is. It is a lot of time. It equals 300 seconds, which then equals 300,000 milliseconds. I'm sorry, I just try and impress my math teacher over there. Credit. Okay. And I was just trying to put this all together, and initially I was going to do a capstone where I try to show everyone how I've evolved throughout through the years and since freshman year. But I couldn't help myself but to ask the question, who in this department evolved the most? And of course, we all know that it's Mr. Brenner. Yeah, I mean, look at him. Just look at him. I'm sorry. He doesn't shine well when the spotlight's on him. His smooth head just takes over. And so instead, the theme for today, or the theme of my capstone, is going to be heartfulness. You might have heard of his younger brother, mindfulness, and just like every older brother is left to take care of themselves because the younger ones need a little more attention, the heart isn't paid much attention. So before I go any further, I would like to do a small heartfulness guided relaxation. You know, just relax, it's nothing big. I will play an audio and just listen to the instructions in the audio, and I would warn you that the lady doing the voiceover has a little bit of accent, but it's not too heavy for you to not understand what she's saying. So yeah, without that, let's find a comfortable position and get started. And you might have to be quiet.
Heartfulness Capstone.
Okay. And the reason I did that is because today we use our minds a lot throughout the days and pay very little attention to the heart. So that was a way to go into your heart and work and just relax and forget about everything else that might be going on. And also, I hope you realize that what we essentially just did was meditate. And, so we don't have to really, the whole perception of meditation, we don't really have to go to the Himalayas and, just sit there and meditate. We can do it anytime, anywhere. And so, coming back to the theme of my capstone, which is heartfulness. And so, almost everyone here may be asking the question, what is heartfulness? Well, it is simply living by the heart and tuning into our hearts and looking inward and outward all the time and using our hearts and just tuning into your hearts. And which raises another question, how is this helpful? What is this? And well, before I answer that question, I would like to ask the audience a few questions. And so raise your hand, if you want to answer. How many of you here have ever felt stressed in your life? Ever? Again, look at Mr. Brenner. Stress-free.
Then where's his
and
hair?
how many of you have been angry before? Everyone, right? And naturally, we tend to try to control those feelings, and if we can, and we look to find resources outward, something that's, maybe like therapy, or everything that's outward. But what we fail to recognize is that there's another remedy, which is within you, and it's your heart. And just to go inward and give it a little time, just stay in there for a while. I mean, it sounds a little creepy, and it doesn't sound like it's possible. But what we just try to do is just stay in there. The lady says, just remain there for a while, and forget about everything. And which that's the goal of heartfulness, which really defines heartfulness, is just a way to relax and just give the heart the attention that it needs. And now you might be wondering, why am I talking about heartfulness, and what is the heart? Why am I talking about the heart? Why am I talking about going inward? And some of you are like, what does that even mean? Well, let me tell you why I chose to talk about this. Well, some of you may know that I meditate, and I'm a spiritual seeker, and that essentially is how I grew up, with my parents doing the same thing. And if you look closely at my writing, you might notice that all of the themes that I write about revolve around one common theme, which is the heart. And I always try to do that consciously or unconsciously sometimes. And what better way to end my journey in high school than to present about something that is deeply rooted to my life. And yeah, so before I go any further, so stress, we've talked about that, and that's heartfulness solution. And I would like to read one of the pieces, and that's the way I'm going to end the presentation, by reading the piece on stress that I wrote. Hopefully you enjoy it. Stress. We all speak of stress. Some complain about more than others do. But we as society have declared stress as a fundamental part of our lives. The moment we begin and decide to manage stress, we are indirectly connecting it to our lives. The question that often arises then is, how can one manage stress? Is there a remedy for this so-called disease? An Indian yogi named Sadhguru presents the answer in simple words. Stress is the inability to manage our own system. The perception that stress is a byproduct of the quantity of our work and our life, by and large, is false. Stress becomes an invited guest when one puts more emphasis on quantity of life. But when the quality of life is changed, it disappears from the guest list. I find it fascinating how society conjectures about materialistic possession as being the only possible way of attaining happiness. We connect happiness with quantity of things in our lives, like the amount of money we make, the luxurious cars we buy, and the opulent house that we live in. But happiness can't merely be defined by one's bank statement. Bank statements may reveal how much stress one has gone through to achieve success, and how much stress they're bound to go through to maintain them. But what defines happiness is the quality of one's life. The moment we begin to label our anxieties and troubles in life as stress, we're changing the quality of our lives. Everything is connected to stress, and the goal is to not connect anything with stress. It's the one thing that we don't need to be stressed with. Thank you.
Oh, God.
You got no time for the King Booney.
No, because I don't think it went that badly, so.
Oh, look, looks like you're eating him. There you go.
Have you been meditating since you were a child?
No, so the meditation that I do is not to just make everyone confused, but it's transmission. So it's only prescribed that you start it at the age of 15. So I started at 15.
What made you do a presentation on this subject?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. Well, so as I said, I was gonna talk about how I evolved as a writer, but that was completely, I felt, it wasn't really personal. It was just me sort of stepping back and then just analyzing how I evolved. And I've actually been inspired by the capstones that have been, because everyone sort of had added a personal touch to that capstone, which I wanted to do. And the only thing that I could think about was meditation and spirituality, because it's so rooted to my upbringing, and I've seen my grandparents, my parents, my uncle and aunt, everyone do it. So that was something that's in in the core. So that's something that I felt which was personal that I could share with everyone, and so that's how.
I never really we just started talking this year, whatever. And I got kind of close to you, I guess, and I never really knew this about you at all, but it kind of makes sense now, because I've never seen you in a bad mood, ever. You're always you're really humble, and you're always laughing, you're always on you always make me laugh and stuff like that. So I'm really proud of you, and congratulations. Oh.
Just gonna go off of what Miranda just said, and just because I've known you since freshman year, and I never knew anything about this either. So I was gonna ask you, how come you don't show this this side of you that often? But with the way she phrased it, it makes me kind of wonder, that positivity that you always seem to have, is that a result of this method that you use, or what do you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is something that that I try to do, and try to not give anyone the privilege of being angry at them, and I try to just stay, happy, and yeah, it is something that influences the way I live, and the question about how come I didn't share this with anyone, well, mainly because it's funny, because sometime last year, at the same time around summer, I attended a camp. It was just a regular camp, but it had a sort of meditation sort of thing going on. And so I attended that camp, and while I was at the airport going to Georgia, and so the guy asked me, he was like, "Oh, where are you guys going?" And obviously I cannot tell him. Well, it just didn't feel comfortable saying. It just made me feel like I was something different, I guess. Which most people want, but it just didn't feel right. And I said, well, it's a camp, it's a soccer camp, whatever. It's like a regular camp. But I kind of, didn't expose that part of it. And it's just because, although it's what makes me different, it's something that I also try to hide, because I'm not sure how people are gonna take that. So it's something that I try to not say, and talk about, but actually show it through
Your actions.
Thank you.